This is the real reason why the Dallas Cowboys are struggling in 2024. No, it's not their defense. It is another component of this team that used to be a strength, but has now turned into a glaring weakness. So I'll break that down and much more in this episode of Cowboys Digest. Welcome in, everybody, to Cowboys Digest. I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, and today we're going to be talking about, in my opinion, the biggest weakness on this Cowboys roster and the real reason why they've been struggling to do anything and to have success in any area of the game. It's because of this unit right here. Before we break that down, though, I want to let you know that a large percentage of you watching these videos are not subscribed to the channel. So go ahead, hit that sub button, because we're almost at my goal of 2,000 subscribers, and it'd mean the world if you could help get me there. So it's free, it doesn't cost you anything, and it helps me out a ton. But let's get straight into it right here. And here is the biggest reason why the Cowboys are struggling. The offensive line, ladies and gentlemen. The offensive line has been absolutely atrocious this season. Alongside the defensive line, alongside some other units on this football team, the offensive line, though, in my opinion, has been the biggest disappointment. If we take a look at the PFF grades, the Pro Football Focus grades, Tyler Guyton, the starting left tackle who will be back in the lineup next week, has a 49.7 PFF grade, which is 71st among 78 offensive tackles in the National Football League. That's not very good. Tyler Smith is one of the best guards in the league. He's been shifted over to left tackle here the past game and a half, and he's done really well there, but I believe he can be a generational talent at the guard position, specifically at left guard. Now we move on to Cooper Beebe, who is the center of the Dallas Cowboys, who was drafted as a center, but played the majority of his games in college with Kansas State at the guard position. He was expected to be one of the best guards in the draft class, but the Dallas Cowboys strike yet again. They can't stay out of their own way. Keep the guy where he's good. Move Tyler Smith over to right tackle, to left tackle. Do something. Don't put guys in positions where they are not comfortable. And Cooper Beebe has to learn an entirely new position at the NFL level. That's just not, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to me, which has resulted in him having a 55.5 PFF grade, ranking him 29th among 35 active centers in the National Football League. So can he get better at the position? Yes, he can, but he was already really good as a guard in college for Kansas State. And now you decide to move him to where he's not comfortable, and that is why he is struggling against much better athletes, against much better edge rushers, interior rushers. It's a hard transition to make. And he's done fine, but he's not a center. He's going to have to learn the position. Then we move over to Zach Martin, who is still a good offensive guard, but he is not elite like he has been in the past. He ranks 24th among 73 in the National Football League, and we take a look at his stats here. You can see that he was a 7-time All-Pro, first team in his 10 years with the Dallas Cowboys before this one. We saw a little bit of regression from him last year, even though he made the first team All-Pro, and he was a Pro Bowler yet again. But we saw some injuries. We actually saw him miss a couple of games, which is not something you see from Zach Martin very often. So it has been a little bit of a decline for him the past couple of seasons, but he's still very good, and he's still someone that they could rely on, but he doesn't have the protection around him. And you could tell by Terrence Steele, who is ranked 46th among 78 offensive tackles. And that makes it really hard to have sustained drives, be able to run the football. And for that reason, that is why the Dallas Cowboys are struggling in so many other areas. Defensively, they were always on the field. I'm not giving the defense a pass because they've been god-awful. So don't get me wrong on that front. But when you have constant 3-and-outs, when you're getting sacked, sapping all the momentum out of your offensive drive, it is very hard for the defense to go out there and get stops, especially when they're undermanned and especially when they're just not that talented. So we look here at the overall grades before the matchup with the Detroit Lions, and you could see that Zach Martin had an 82.6 before the game against the Lions, and he had one of the worst performances that I've ever seen Zach Martin have. against Detroit. So maybe that's why his grade is significantly lower than it is pictured over here. But you can see that the pass blocking is just subpar all across the board. And it's just not good enough. Tyler Guyton, a 36.5 pass block through 5 weeks of action. That is tough, man. That is tough. And Tyler Smith is the only one really putting up good numbers here. And another guy, I don't want to pick on Guyton here because he's a rookie and he's playing an entirely new position, which is another thing that Jerry Jones decided to cripple this team with. He was a right tackle at Oklahoma. He was a right tackle. Now he is a left tackle, and he's got to learn that position. Even though he said, I feel more comfortable at the left tackle position. It's a big adjustment to make when you started 14 games for Oklahoma at the right tackle position. It's a huge adjustment, and you can see here, he's tied for third with 8 penalties. He's tied for fourth with 4 sacks allowed, and he's played quite a few offensive snaps. So this is not some small sample size here for Tyler Guyton. He has gotten a lot of looks at the left tackle position, and he hasn't been good. He hasn't been good. He's been their worst offensive lineman, arguably at the most crucial position. Look at that, 49.7 grade. 71st out of 78 offensive tackles. The pass blocking, garbage. Dak Prescott, I'm not going to give him a pass, but he doesn't have time to throw the football. He doesn't. He does not have time to throw the ball, and he should not be turning the ball over in the red zone, but he's forced to make these decisions a lot quicker than he should have to, and that is affecting his level of play. It is affecting the way that the Cowboys are running the football, and it's affecting the way that they're playing the game, and that to me is a big concern. And again, here, this is what I was touching on with Guyton. 14 starts at Oklahoma on the right-hand side. It'll be an easy transition for him as far as the responsibility of playing the backside of the quarterback. It's different, man. It's real different. Guyton understands that there will be a lot of work put into the transition as he looks to earn a starting spot next to Tyler Smith, who would be able to stay at left guard, the team's preference. Tyler Smith is going to be a fantastic player if he isn't already, and I'm sure he's going to be a Pro Bowler this season, but he's a guard. He's a great guard, and there's nothing wrong with keeping him where he's comfortable. Tyler Smith had to play left tackle last year when Tyron Smith got out. So what's the issue here with keeping guys at positions they are comfortable at? If Tyler Guyton is a right tackle, keep him at right tackle. There's nothing wrong with having a great player at that position for 10 years. It's something that you don't have to worry about. If a guy is a great right tackle, keep him there. Let him develop there. Why do you have to make him into something that he isn't? Why do you have to make Cooper Beebe a center when he isn't a center? When he's never played there in his college career? When he's never played there probably in his life? So that's what I see here. The biggest issue is that there has been mismanagement on the offensive line, mismanagement in a lot of areas for the Dallas Cowboys. But if a guy is not comfortable at his position, he's going to struggle. If you draft a rookie and expect him to transition seamlessly into another position that he has never played before in his life, I got news for you, Jerry. I got news for you, Mike McCarthy. He is going to struggle. Tyler Guyton's a right tackle. Hasn't played there for one snap this year. Cooper Beebe is a guard. He has been the center from game 1 to game 6. Figure something out here in the bye week, because the offensive line has been the biggest reason why this team has struggled to run the football, to pass the football, and ultimately why they've struggled defensively as well. I'm not giving the defense a pass, but they are always on the field because the Cowboys just do not sustain long drives. They can't run the football. They can't pass the football deep. They can't do anything because there is no time and space to do anything. And that all comes down to the offensive line not doing their job and the offensive line being inexperienced and just straight up not good. They're not a good line. They're not a good unit. You could tell there by the grades. Tyler Smith is great. He's going to be an all-pro this year. But Terrence Steele, Zach Martin with his declining skill set, Cooper Beebe out of position, Tyler Guyton out of position, undisciplined. It's rough. It's rough out here. and the Cowboys got to figure something out. They got to establish some sort of run game, and I hope they're working hard as of right now, because you have a couple of weeks to prepare for the San Francisco 49ers, and we all know that the Cowboys have not played the Niners well in recent memory. But that'll wrap it up for this episode of Cowboys Digest. Thank you guys so much for making it this far. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but the offensive line has been total and utter garbage to start off this season, and that is the biggest reason why the Cowboys have struggled to establish any sort of offensive identity. But I'll see you all tomorrow. Go Cowboys.